From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Chief of the African Middle Eastern Division, Dr. Mary Jane Deeb, and all my colleagues in the division, I wish you the warmest of welcomes to this noontime presentation. I'm Chris Murphy. I'm the head of the Near East section here in the division. The division is made up of three sections. The Hebraic section, whose staff is responsible for developing the collection in Judaica and Hebraica. The African section, whose staff is responsible for developing the collection from and about sub-Saharan Africa. And then the Near East section, of which I'm head. And the staff of the Near East section is responsible for developing the collection from and about all of the Arab countries, Iran, Afghanistan, Tajikistan, Turkey, the Turkic countries of Central Asia, the countries of the Caucasus, Armenia, Georgia, and Azerbaijan, and the Islamic peoples of Western China, Russia, and the Balkans. So you see the Near East section has a very, very broad area of responsibility, basically from Casablanca in the west to Kashgar in the east, from Khartoum in the south to Kazan in the north. The collection of the Near East section consists of somewhat over 480,000 volumes, approximately one-half of which are in Arabic. There are approximately 75,000 each in Turkish and in Persian, and the remaining 90,000 are in 36 other languages. Probably the largest language represented in the other 36 is Armenian, which now has close to 40,000 volumes. As I noted, the staff of the section are responsible for developing the collection from and about the area of the section's responsibility. The staff are also responsible for providing access to the collection through the reference work. And of course, the section, as is the entire division, is mandated to make the material we hold better known. And one of the ways we do that is through these noontime lectures, as well as a number of other things such as symposia. Now, we're particularly honored today because we have Mr. Mahmoud Wahidullah, who is the chief of the United Nations Office for Peace Operations, and he is sitting here in the front, and we are very honored that he is here. And we are also very honored that our speaker, who will be introduced in a moment, is here, particularly as he will be speaking about a subject that is really not well known outside of Afghanistan. Now, as I mentioned, the staff of the section are responsible for not only collection development, but also for reference. And they're also responsible for outreach. And Mr. Hirad Dinavari, the specialist for the Iranian world here in the section, has been essential in creating today's program, and I'd like to ask Mr. Dinavari to come forward and introduce today's speaker. Hirad.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chris. Sher Aghlas and Khosh Amadid to all of you who are here. I'm very honored to have a lovely program on Afghanistan. I also have a very fond memory I have to put up in the front in the very beginning. When I was growing up as a kid, I had just come to the US. I remember turning channels, especially the public stations here in the Northern Virginia area. There were not very few that had Persian language or Dari. And I remember seeing Dr. Naveed give lovely little programs on poetry, art. So from a young age, I have grown fond of him, and I'm glad to finally have a program in his honor. Dr. Hamid Naweed received his M.F.A. from the State University of New York at Buffalo. He was a professor of art history, color theory, studio arts, and art appreciation at the Fine Arts Department of Kabul University, and is now an honorary member of the Council of Arts and the Center for Contemporary Arts in Afghanistan. Dr. Naveed is also the cultural director of Alliance for the Restoration of Cultural Heritage, based in Washington, D.C. As a Fulbright scholar, he conducted many research studies in the field of arts and humanities. Dr. Naveed is the author of a novel, The Music of the Reed, which goes back to Rumi. He has also authored a number of scholarly essays on the art and culture of Afghanistan and the region, and has given talks on the same topic at George Washington University, George Mason University, John Hopkins University, Columbia University, and the Historic Society of Williamsburg. His script for the movie Luri won the New York International Film Festival's Best Feature Film Prize in 2008. Dr. Hamid is also an accomplished artist whose work in oil and acrylic painting are well known, and is a recognized poet of Dari Persian. Dr. Naveed is an active member of the Afghan Poetic Society. His lectures on art and literature have been widely aired on Radio Voice of America, Dari Service, Ariana Afghan TV Network, Zareen TV, Radio Nakhshhay Javidan, based in the Bay Area of California, servicing the Afghan community in Little Kabul. Art Through the Ages in Afghanistan, written in 2 volumes, is a major work. It is a product of many years of research, including frequent visits to Kabul Museum and important archaeological sites in Afghanistan, as well as visits to major museums in Europe and America, housing important artifacts from Afghanistan. In completing this work, Dr. Naveed has also made use of numerous interviews with Afghan and international scholars, contemporary artists, and local people living in the vicinity of historic sites. Recently, in the month of March of 2013, the Library of the Faculty of Fine Arts at Kabul University was officially named after him as the Library of Hamid Naweed, to honor his ongoing effort in promotion of art and culture in Afghanistan. He was one of the first professors of fine arts at the Department of Kabul University. And I also want to take a second and thank the Afghan Embassy for suggesting this wonderful program, and for our lovely visitor, Dr. Naveed Wahidullah from the UN, who have made it here from New York. It has been truly a pleasure to arrange this. Without any further time, Dr. Naveed.
Thank you, and welcome for coming to this lecture. I am very honored by the kind words of Mr. Dinwari. He was very kind to me. Of course, I did some researches. It was my duty to write something about Afghanistan, a country which has a long history, but it's kind of unknown to the world because of media coverage in Afghanistan has been always concentrated on wars rather than the art and the schools of art, which has flourished in that country through the ages. That's why I wrote this book. It was difficult for me to write this book in English because it is not my native language. But I thought it's important that people here would know about the importance of Afghanistan as a ground that many civilizations met there. It was a crossroad of civilization, a true crossroad of civilization throughout the ages, from early times of history through Middle Ages and up to 15th and 17th century. Then after that, transportation system changed in the world, so it became a remote country. One of the reasons that so many people do not know about the art of Afghanistan is because most of the Orientalists came to the region in the 19th century, and they did not have any chance to be in Afghanistan or Central Asia. They were mostly stationed in Persia or India and did not visit Afghanistan historic sites. So Charles Mason, who was collecting Buddha's relics, he came from India. He thought it was a continuation of Indian civilization. And when Brown wrote the history of Persian literature, he thought everybody who speaks Persian is a Persian. So that's why it became very difficult for the Western readers to know what is the truth about that region. Well, anyway, I'm not going to give so much talk on this thing and invite you to see the wonderful artwork which has been created in the land which is called Afghanistan. Thank you. This is a statue found from Oxus in 1976 by Louis Dupree and Alexander Marshak, American specialist for Stone Age art, studied it. Oxus is in Balkh, and that one belongs to 17,000 before Christ, almost 20,000 before. This little statue was created. It's the first statue ever carved in Asia. And it shows a face of a person with a sardonic smile, and you can see the eyes and the nose and the mouth foundation. Probably it was a little piece that people were carrying it for rituals. And then when they studied it further, they saw a form of a leg. Can you see in the sketch? Underneath the face, next to his chin. We don't know actually if he is a man or a woman, but that gave an idea that maybe he's a baby in the oval. And then maybe they had some rituals, some sort of religion that it is so unknown to us. During the Mesolithic period, in the caves of Samangan, some drawings were found, which belongs to 8,000 BCE, like 10,000 years from now. It's contemporary with the cave paintings of Europe and south of France and Spain. But this one is so abstract. Maybe they were calculating the days. And very interestingly, the Italian archaeologists found a very developed system of irrigation in Samangan. That's why they thought that the first farmers started the irrigation of wheat and barley in northern Afghanistan. And that's why our culture is based on farming. This is from south of Afghanistan. It's from Mundiga, Kandahar, on the bank of Helmand River. It's a very early structure, which is equivalent to the era of Egyptian pharaohs and Sumerians. Very ancient, 6,000 BC, up to 4,000 BC, because Kandahar at that time became the center of trade between Sumer, and Mohenjo-Daro, which is in Indus Valley. That was a connecting point. And also, I'll go on next slide. These are the artifacts which has been found from there. And you can see some of them, like they're very the statue of a female and a male goddess, and statue of a man in realistic style, the figurine of a farmer, the goblets that they were using at that time. And what was this land called at that time? According to Aristophanes, the Greek geographer, this is the very ancient map which has been drawn from the ancient world, belonged to almost the end of 3rd century BC, and it shows part of Europe, Libya, part of Africa, and Ariana. The word Ariana is written very clearly in this map. This map was reconstructed in the original is in British Museum, British Library. And it was published in the book of Strabo, talking about Ariana. Ariana was the main land. And let's see, what does the word Ariana come from? What does it mean? Some people mean like a higher race, some people mean noble people, but in actuality, it means farmers, farming. Ara in Pashto still is referred to a farmer. According to studies of great Afghan scholar Habibi in Sanskrit and in ancient Pahlavi, the word Ara means farmer, and Aran means somebody who's doing it, like it's becoming his profession. And still, if you go to remote villages of Afghanistan, they call a farmer an Ara, Aran. And that's where the Aryan word came from, developed. It doesn't mean it begins, it's a profession rather than a race, because these people were farmers. And since farming was a noble profession at that time that everybody was killing each other, so they said they're noblemen. And Zoroaster emphasized on the culture of the Aryans, farmers. That's why still our emblem of Afghanistan up to this day has the wheat. And this is the ancient trade route. The one on top you see Sarisang is a place in Badakhshan which has all the lapis lazuli stones. And that's the only place in that part of the world which has lapis lazuli stone. So trading lapis lazuli before silk was a very important commodity, gold, and then other weapons. And then this road came from Sarisang to Bactrian, went through Bamiyan to Arakusia, Kandahar, and then went to Shari-Sokhta in the corner of Iran and Baluchistan and Afghanistan, went to Susa, Elamite Kingdom, into Sumer, and then beyond, because it was something that they all needed. Before I go to other slide, I want to show that all the cities, most of the cities at that time was starting with the one word Ara. Arya was the name of Herat. Aryas was the name of ancient Zaranj. Arakusia, these were the places, Kandahar today, were places that people were farming. Farming was a good profession. It was a profitable profession. And these are the examples of Egyptian and Mesopotamian artwork dedicated to lapis, showing the lapis of Badakhshan between 3,200, 2000 BCE. And these trade routes, I go back, are very important for connecting India to Central Asia, to Sogdia, ancient Sogdia, and also to through Arya and Margo to the south of Caspian Sea, and then eventually to Turkey, Anatolia. And then that's how the world, ancient world, was connected in our part of the world. Maybe in Europe there were other trade routes. And that's when the immigration of Aryans from the foothills of Pamir Mountains started to Mohenjo-Daro, about 1000 BCE. And there was Harappa, was another station in Baluchistan today, which was connected to Shari-Sokhta and Susa. Shahr-e-Shush. And these are the lapis lazuli objects of Badakhshan used in Egyptian and Mesopotamian art. The culture of Near East and Mesopotamia, like in Persia and Sumeria, Babylon, are very close to each other because it developed around the Persian Gulf. It is kind of different than the artifacts which was developed in Afghanistan from very beginning. During the time of Achaemenids, how do you say that in English? Achaemenids? Achaemenishiha. They came and invaded Bactria. They brought some of their artwork, but the styles remained differently. You see in the next slide. Like these are the golden objects found from Tapi Fulul in Baghlan, and the other one is called the Oxus Treasure. You can see the difference of the style, very fine lines. You see the animals, and this one is very interesting. And this one belonged to later period, because in that collection, there were all kind of gold objects brought by the merchants from different parts of the world, so it doesn't reveal the same collection as the Sheberghan gold collection. And this is the most interesting golden object. This one was brought by the merchants of Afghanistan, illegal excavation in 1880, and then they were going to sell it in Peshawar. These guys were coming from Balkh, along with many other golden objects. The bandits start attacking them. Then there was a British army officer, his name was Barton. Colonel Barton attacked the bandits and saved the gold, and he took it to Victoria Albert Museum. And this is, since it was not done by an official excavation, so it's very ambiguous which characters these people represent. However, some people call it Achaemenid art, but does not reveal so much characteristics of Achaemenid art, Achaemenid, Achaemenishiha. It can be anyone. It can be a Scythian, it can be a Parthian, it can be a Paktian, it can be any of those tribes. But if we look at the book of Rig Veda, you know, Vedic books are 4 books, and Rig Veda is the most important one. And chapter, which is about praying, it's in verse 117, Princess Kahucha of Harabarzani. Harabarzani was the name of ancient name of Pamir Mountain. She calls upon the stars to send the golden chariot pulled by 4 horses to fight against the darkness of evil and glow in the morning. It's a beautiful poetry written 2,000 years ago. And one of our greatest scholars, Mr. Pajwak, who was also in the UN ambassador, he translated in a very eloquent, poetic language into Dari. And I was honored to know him personally. These are very interesting artwork that you find all the way from Balkh to Marangiana, along Oxus River. These are called the Oxus Princes or Bactrian Princes. Most of these do not exist in Kabul Museum because during the war it was gone, illegal excavations. Some of them are in Louvre, some of them are in other museums of America, and Japanese collectors have it. It is the most intricate artwork. It's made out of 2 pieces of stone. Now everybody has become advanced, you know, the artist is becoming creative. So they are using different kind of stones, and especially the clothing of the ladies are very, very interesting. You can see the influence of this kind of clothing in some of statues, little figurines that are found from Mesopotamia, which shows the connection of the ancient world. But these are very authentic and very original. When the Mesopotamian statues were found, these were not found. So people didn't know, because those little figurines are very different from the rest of the Mesopotamian art. So that can be gone there by trade, and people interpret it differently according to their own taste and culture. And this is when Alexander the Great comes to the region. This coin is found from Khost, Paktia province, Mirzaka, which was unfortunately looted after 1992, the greatest collection of gold in the ancient world. About 3,000 pieces were sold in the bazaars of Peshawar, and then some pieces were found. And this is the very first statue of Alexander, coin of Alexander, coin, not statue, I'm sorry, that was done in his lifetime. In one side of the coin is his picture with a helmet like an elephant, and the other side is the elephant. That shows that Alexander invaded India. That's the symbolism of this thing. And this statue is found from Bagram, Kapisa, north of Kabul. Parwan province, that region, was a very ancient civilization which had Hellenistic characteristics because of the Greeks who came there and mingled with the people. And this is the statue, the medallion of Anahita, with Hellenistic characteristics, showing an Aryan god in a Greek format. And it resembles Nike, with the winged goddess of victory in Greek mythology. In order to understand the art of Afghanistan, one has to study Greek mythology, one has to study ancient fables of Aryana, one has to study India, Buddhism, and Hinduism, because there's so many mixtures there. As we go along, you can see all these interesting pieces. Here, the statue found from Bagram, a warrior. The warrior in the middle, the bronze model, the small statue, very proportionate. And I'm comparing that with the Greek statues of Hercules, Apollo, and the fallen soldier from Greece. The Greek statues look perfect in terms of beauty, in terms of proportions. Some of them are a little exaggerated. Even the fallen soldier, who must have a very painful face, he's dying like a hero, he doesn't show any face. But this statue, which is made in Bagram, is very realistic. It shows a soldier who's fighting, a Scythian warrior, who's tired, who doesn't have, he's very proportionate, but doesn't have very exaggerated muscles. And he is an unknown soldier, so anyone can relate to him. He's not a hero. He's just another human being. That's why I love this piece. It's in Kabul Museum. One of the most expensive, valuable pieces that we have is this little statue. Apparently, it was on a horse, but the horse is gone. And these are the statues of Ai-Khanum, the city which was lost, and was written in the Greek history books, but everybody was looking at the city. And King Zahir Shah found this city accidentally when he was going for farming near the Kokcha and Amu Darya. It's in the intersection of these two rivers. Some farmers came and said, we have found these pieces. And he took the picture and asked the French archaeologists, and they came and said, oh, wow, the ancient city which all the Greek books were talking about is found. And that's the city of Ai-Khanum. Ai-Khanum in Uzbeki means moon lady. And this is, Hermaic statues in Greek. It's half statue, half pillar. This one was from the gymnasium and shows an older man in kind of Bactrian clothes with the hat, especially. Probably he was the keeper of the gymnasium. I don't know. We can make it up. Nancy Dupree thinks it's a statue of the keeper of the gymnasium. And this is the most interesting piece. Amazing. It really amazed me. It is the sundial. Sundial, which is based on all the latitudes and longitudes you can see is carefully carved in this. On top of it, there was a piece of metal which throws a shadow. And on the first day, on the 21st day of March, it's in the center, which is equivalent to Nowruz. And as it moves around, on the 20th of September, it comes back here, which shows the Jashn Mehergan. Nowruz is when you cultivate the wheat, and Mehergan is when you harvest the wheat. And that's why. And ironically, this hemispheric sundial is adjusted to the latitude of Afghanistan. And the other one is equatorial. It shows the time and the weather changes in India. But I don't know how it operates. It has a very, very specific calculation. Somebody has to know astronomy. But that shows the advancement of a culture. Way before Galileo thought the world is round, these people thought about making an earth, you know, in a concave way, which has all the longitude and latitude. All the way from Sogdian to Seleucid Empire, this thing was in use. But only 2 examples have been found from Takhar province of Afghanistan, from Khanum. So it's a very, very ancient and very important piece. And these are the Greco-Bactrian civilization fall. I mean, like the fall of the Roman Empire. You know, when Alexander the Great passed away in Babylon, you know, his generals divided his big empire, Attalid in Anatolia, Syracuse in Syria, and Sham in Iran, and then Ptolemy in Egypt. But why they call it Greco-Bactrian? Not why it's named after a general, because it was a combined kingdom of Bactrians and the Greeks who remained there. And that's why it's called the Hellenistic art, that they were cut from their origin. You know, they had their traditions, but the Greeks who were born and raised there and mingled and mixed with the people. Actually, the marriage of Alexander the Great with Roxana was the marriage of 2 cultures, and that remained. But there was a man by name of Maius. He was a Scythian man who overthrew that kingdom, and then another phase in the history started. And this coin at the very corner, which has a gray background, this is the coin of Menendez. Menendez was a king who lived in Panjshir and Parwan, and then invaded all the way to Indus. And he was a philosopher. He was the first one who translated the ideals of Buddhist religion into Greek. 100 questions from Buddha that amazed most of the Greek historians and Greek philosophers. And that's how the religion of Buddha started becoming popular religion in Kabul and surrounding areas all the way to Baghlan. He's a very famous man. I mean, he's a very important man. He translated something very, very important in the ancient times. During this time, just before the emergence of Kushanian Empire, you know, this golden collection, the most golden, beautiful golden collection was found from Jawzjan province, Shiberghan, which is about maybe beginning of the Christian era. And it is so beautiful and authentic, especially this Marco Polo piece. We call it Marco Polo, the mountain goat. It's called Marco Polo because Marco Polo talked about it so much, and the Afghans call it Marco Polo. And the crown and all the jewelry is amazing. But they were not just jewelries. They were telling stories. They were telling they narrated many stories. That showed, because Judge John was in the intersection of the trade road, and this is an amazing piece, and that's why it has the influences of many cultures, but it has its own characteristic. It shows the cupids, but in a grown-up man way. One of them is young, and he is right on the target. And the other guy is kind of old, and he doesn't have any aim. He just loves to have love, kind of lasting love in his face, you can see. He compares both of them. These two mirror each other. That's a piece of jewelry. And this is one of then the tradition moved from north of Afghanistan to south of Afghanistan, through the gorges of Hindu Kush mountain. The same tradition of Hellenistic art came to the south and to Kabul. And this piece is found from Bagram, an ivory piece. And that shows a griffin, and a woman is sitting on top of the griffin. Okay, this is a combination of Greek mythology, our mythology, and Indian mythology. You see the creature underneath, it's called Makara. Makara is an Indian monster, which takes people towards lust, towards bad habits. And then this lady is trying to sit on Homa, which is in our culture is Homa, and tries to elevate herself. But it's her distorted character taking her back towards the mouth of Makara. Struggle between spiritual love and material love. It's amazing. This piece is not purely Indian because we had statues of Homa in stone found also from Kapisa. And if you can see, it's a copy of that stone statue in ivory. That's one of the ancient ivory pieces existing because the ivory pieces in India, because of the humidity, deteriorated. Also in Africa. This collection is one of the very unique and fine collections of National Museum of Afghanistan. This is Sarkotal in Baghlan province, is showing a Zoroastrian temple. And this is the crown. I mean, the main part is picture 6, and King Kanishka's statue, and the inscription of Sarkotal, which was found from the well. There's a well there. The whole story was that once this place had water, but it was drought, and the water went, finished. Then on the order of King Kanishka, a well was dug, and then the temple had water again. But this piece is written after Kanishka has been passed away. But they praise him. The names of all the people who constructed this huge temple is written there. The name of the mayor of the city is there. It's amazing. When Shulum Berger, the French archaeologist, found this piece, and they were looking at it, they couldn't read it. It's all Greek alphabet, but no words make sense. Then they invited Professor Habibi and Professor Kozad, Afghans, and they could read the words. Nisan means spring. Obba means ab, water. Ota means or in Pashto, Atash in Dari. And Bal means light. And they put the words together and read this very incredible inscription, which is one of the ancient inscriptions, very, very important piece. because it teaches us a lot about linguistics of that time, the language it developed at the time of Kushanian, and how Pashto and Dari had similar roots, and how it was similar to Pahlavi Ishkani, which was becoming important in Persia and Iran. That's a very important piece. And this two other murals belong to another temple called Rabatak, Temple of Nana. Nana means mother in our language. And then it's about for the goddess of Nana. And until now in Kodaman, people call their mother Nana. And that shows a Kushanian man speaking with Zeus, with Pharaoh, and the second one showing a Kushanian man speaking with Zeus. And there are some pendletons with some Greek, with Egyptian motifs. This is my favorite statue of a thinker, 2nd century AD, created in Bagram. And actually, it shows a man thinking, deep in thinking. And I believe that the statues of Buddha were copied from that statue. You can see the same features, the same feeling, the same gesture. And that's how the Greco-Buddhist art flourished. The Hellenistic Buddhist art is the right term. The statue on the left, showing Buddha in Nirvana, it has to be in equilibrium. The whole body has to be in perfect balance. He's sitting on lotus. And it is one of the amazing statues because the statue on a very thin piece of metal that is sitting on the lotus is amazing. Because if it is a little bit unbalanced, the statue will fall. And he has covered, the artist has covered that piece of metal very smartly with the robe of Buddha. The other one is showing Buddha leaving the palace. And then that is his attendant, giving him his crown, but he is naked. He is Buddha's Shakyamuni, Buddha of Darwish, Buddha who doesn't need any luxury anymore. And then his wife is still asleep. That shows 3 stages of awakening. She's totally gone. She doesn't know about the realities of the world around her. She's asleep in the palace. The guard is half awake, but Buddha has become free. That's why they have made him outside of that small little arch. Purposely, artists made it like a small arch to show the very harsh environment of the palace and how he wanted to free himself. And these are paintings from Bamiyan. And this one, the one on the right is from Fundokistan. The 2 are from the caves of Bamiyan, showing Buddha's portraits. But the importance of this is that these are the oldest oil paintings in the world. 2nd century. They're not frescoes. That is way before oil painting started in Europe in 14th or 15th century. And the Japanese archaeologists found that the pigments of paint is all from oil. And oil painting, and to mix the oil painting is a very advanced technique which developed in Europe in 15th century. And there's the influence of the composition of these paintings you can see still in the contemporary artwork of Herat. This one on the lower right is a very contemporary painting. The guy even didn't know that a painting like that existed in the caves of Bamiyan, but the inspiration, I don't know. The culture is there. That's when a culture crystallizes throughout the ages. And these are the statues of Bamiyan, unfortunately blown up. And you can see the technique. It was carved in the face of the cliff, and then it was covered with a piece with coats of clay and coated with plaster. My professor, Mr. Haidarzad, I have the honor to have him here. He has done great studies. Mr. Haidarzad, the founder of Fine Arts Department of Kabul University, on the kind of clay that was used in the statues and lasted for thousands of years. I have to acknowledge Mr. Haidarzad. He's a fine sculptor. And the other one is Hadda, and the other one is from Baghlan. Amazing statues carved and then coated with clay, a special technique which developed in Afghanistan mostly, because in India you have more stone statues because of humidity. In Greece you have stone and bronze, but we had statues mixed with clay, which give lots of elasticity for the artist to work on the details. I can talk 2 hours on these statues, but we have to go along. And these are the recent statues which were found from Mesa Aynak. The same kind of technique you can see there. And Mesa Aynak is the greatest deposit of copper and the second largest deposit of copper in the world. And it shows that some very ancient civilization existed there. It still needs to be excavated. But these statues belong to 2nd century AD. And you can see the mountain is red. You know, you can see the copper. And it was used during the Kushanian era and during the Ghaznavid era, the copper of Mesa Aynak, but in small amounts. Now it's under contract with a Chinese company. But we are very concerned about these temples, about 7 temples exist on those mountains, and we have to excavate them very safely before they blow up the mountain, and then the copper is excavated. And then in this slide, we want to show the difference between the styles of art which was developed in Afghanistan and India. You know, in India, it's more exaggerated. And Afghanistan statues are more realistic because of Hellenistic influence. The Buddha statues, you know, in Buddhism we have 2 sects. Mahayana means the greater vehicle, and Hinayana. In Hinayana, you're not allowed to show the portraits of Buddha, which was mainly in southern India. In Mahayana, you can show him. That's why most of the statues were developed in ancient Kandahar, Afghanistan, all the way to Kapisa and background. The same way, in Hindu religion, the gods that are created in India are very exaggerated, and then like these are the Nega kings. The Nega kings, which are found from Hindukistan, are not a mixture of animal and snake and a human. The artist has covered his legs, their legs, you know. But the Nega kings in India, you can see that they are like snakes. It belongs to Hoysala. The civilization of India, which was much later than Hindukistan. And you see, this is Brahma. Brahma, the god of creation, found from Afghanistan. He looks like a very realistic man, you know. And the one in India is Trimurti. Trimurti shows the 3 personalities of creation. Brahma, the creator, Vishnu, the maintainer, and Shiva, the destroyer. And with many, many hands. Sometimes when my wife tells me, do this, do that, I say, I wish I was Shiva, then I could do all the work for you. I swear, where's the Karki? Where's this? Where? Okay, I'm not Shiva or Vishnu. This is the very interesting temple from south of Logar, south of Kabul, Guldara, Temple of Guldara, yeah. But this is not the Guldara of Parwan, it's a different one. And you can see in this temple how the structures have been transferred to Islamic era, like the arches. All the foundations of this architectural style remained in Afghanistan. Even Islam came, but it remained, and it shows in the architectural style of Ghaznavid and Ghurid era, especially the arches and the stonework and how they were using the bricks. And this is the Khatubah of Rabatak, which is the newest Khatubah found. It belongs also to the era that Kanishka was alive, and it tells about the language that he says that I should speak in my court. He said, from now on you should speak Aran in my court, not Ionic language, which means Greek language. That's his command. And then some other literature were found from Samangan, which was smuggled out of the country, but now a gentleman from Iran found it and bought it legally, and he gave it to Cambridge University to study. Professor William Sims is studying on these. And we can see in this slide, how the ancient Greek and Khurushti inscription changed to Arabic inscription. That's a process. These ones in the middle are very important because we had the missing piece. It connected, because when the Arabs came, and the Arabic alphabet became very important. So I hope I'm not boring everybody. And these are, as we can see, the style of art of coins of Yaftalis are repeated in the time of Samanid and Safarid kings. And the statues of Fundakistan has been repeated again in the art of ancient Ghazna. And this last piece is so beautiful. It's an incense burner that shows rabbits and lionesses, and to show the coexistence. And it has some writings in Arabic and also some writings from Buddhists, some quotations of Buddha. It's a combination of the culture. It's amazing. This one is in Kuwait now. And this is the Islamic era. Samanid, Noh Gumbad is the architectural style of Samanid. The one on the right is the architectural style of Safarid. And then you can see how detailed they were. Then the Ghaznavid architecture. And this was much taller, according to the sketches of the British artists who were there, but it was destroyed during the Anglo-Afghan War. It was 80 meters tall. And if you can see this minaret, the floor plan is created by 2 squares, which gives 16 panels for the tower. And this is the minaret of Jam, the time of Ghurid, Shahabuddin Ghuri. His name is written there. And one of his slaves who became king in India by the name of Qutbuddin Aibak. In the honor of Qutbuddin Aibak, the other minaret was built, which is called Qutb Munar of Dili, which is a replica of the minaret of Jam, but in Indian style. It doesn't have all these details that the minaret has. And then in 15th century, during the Timurids of Herat, it's amazing art pieces developed, the pictorial arts. And this is amazing. These pieces are made by a Mousavi, a man who was a man of religion, and he did pictorial arts. That's the irony of the whole thing. Maulana Waliullah Wali, a man who is very religious. But he was the greatest artist of 15th century, before Behzad, before Merak. And this is in this painting, on the big painting, he shows the tree of wisdom. And the sage is sitting underneath the tree, and the other person is watching. The sage doesn't have any color to show that he became part of the nature. And this is the tree of wisdom as mentioned in Daqiqi's poetry. And of course, these are other sketches. And then we come to Behzad. Behzad, who was one of the most famous artists of the 15th century. Why his name is Behzad? Because his father was coming from the village of Behzadi, which is in north of Kabul. And then he was a calligrapher at the time of Shah Rukh Mirza, and he passed away. And then his son was brought up by his friend and colleague, Ruhullah Mirak Khorasani. But he chose his father's name and called himself Behzad. And then he became one of the most beautiful, famous artists of the ancient time, 15th century. And this is his painting, shows triumph of Timur from Tuzuk Timuri. And these are all from different Lali, from Shirin and Farhad, they illustrated all the stories, and Layla Majnun and all those famous stories. I'm sorry that I'm throwing so many foreign words, but these are the words that these artists dealt. One of the specific characteristic of this painting was, of these paintings, all of them, that calligraphy, poetry, and painting appeared as one art. But as during 17th century, these are the paintings which shows the triumph of Babur. Babur coming to Kabul, Babur in Ghazni, Babur in Samangan, and from Babur Nama. And as you see, the colors are becoming a little bit different. This is the book in Pashto from 17th century from Rahman Baba. And the other one is a painting showing Ahmad Shah Durrani in the Battle of Panipat. This one is in British Museum. It is British Library, and it's in public domain. You can always access it. Around 19th century, as the British came to India, the style changed. And the first Afghan artist who drew in sort of realistic style was Mr. Abkam. He was mute, but he was deaf, but he was a great artist. He did the portraits of the Hamid Dost Muhammad Khan. And as you see in calligraphy, the calligraphy became separated from the motifs. And you see more and more, it became separated as two separate parts of the art piece, and then until the calligraphy was in one page, and this illustration was in one page, like Western books. That was, I don't know if it was a good influence or bad influence, but that was what was happening in 19th century. During this time, King Abdurrahman was in Afghanistan during Nuristan became Muslim during his era in 19th century. And the wonderful artwork of Nuristan influenced lots of artists because they were very authentic and very original, and nobody knew about this art which existed from time of Yaftalids until now in Afghanistan. Wonderful woodwork and affected architecture of Kabul. But at this time, during the time of King Amanullah, European style also came. And the idea of public gardens was first created during the time of King Amanullah. Before that, all the gardens, all the beautiful palaces belonged to the royalty and the special guests. But King Amanullah was the first one who said public garden, public art, and made art came out of the palace to the people, which is amazing. This is the portraits of early 20th century done by Professor Mousavi, who studied in Germany, and he has European style, as you see that King Abdurrahman, very fine painter, and then some of his landscape is reminiscent of Thomas Cole's work. But after him was Burishna, who also studied in Germany. He brought European style, but he had more freehand, free strokes. But he was dealing more with the everyday life of the ordinary people under the guide, inspired by King Amanullah. So that's how the Jan School of Afghanistan started, which governed for almost half a century. Most beautiful paintings of the old masters, Rasuddin Khan, Umaid, Karim Shah Khan. I don't want to give you all the names, but these were great artists of early 20th century until 1950s, 1970s. This was the style in Afghanistan, and that's why everybody followed that style. And look at these paintings, they're beautiful. Beautiful artwork. And in mid-60s, there were two artists who changed the style. I mean, they brought some changes. Mrs. Shukur Wali, who studied in France, Montpellier, she was doing lots of post-impressionistic painting, and Mr. Nigah, who did lots of Faoistic, who loved Faoism, and then Cubism, and he painted a lot. They were like the pioneers of modern art in Afghanistan. And then we go to the next slide, and we can see here the work of Professor Haidarzad, who also studied in Rome, one of the first sculptors in Afghanistan, the work of Mr. Parsa and work of Mr. Tamim Etemadi. I hope he is here. A great abstract artist of Afghanistan. I really love the choice of colors that he used. I have the honor to be his colleague too. We were teaching at Kabul University Fine Arts Department together. And Mr. Parsa's work was impressionistic. Until 1970s, everything was going very normally till late 1978. Then the coup d'etat happened, and then the Marxist regime took over. And then the art changed to socialism, realism, revolutionary art, but the style of Moscow came to Afghanistan. But the reaction against it was also very strong. As you can see, the painting on the left, on the right, is by the resistance people, condemning the Soviet invasion. That shows the workers' revolution. And now we see the rise of the Afghan generation, and beautiful artwork. And this shows a lady who painted a uniform without a man in it, like how the international world brought peace in Afghanistan, according to this girl. This is a painting of me and a young girl. The painting on the left is by me. Of course, it's a good painting, but I have not gone as deep as this young girl, because I portrayed the mother and child from a distance, because I'm an observer. I didn't live in that part of under the war. But that girl painted the mother like a ghost, because she doesn't exist anymore. Their room full of smoke and a wall of fire in front of the children. She has gone well beyond my imagination, that I could not even think about that. So it says, in terms of content, that's a much greater art piece. Our generation couldn't think that way. And these are different artworks from Shamsia, becoming a refugee. The pain of melting as a refugee is revealed in their work. Amazing. People who are melting, people who don't have head, they don't know where they're going. And this is the last slide. This painting on the left is showing a mystery of a culture hidden from the world, presented by Rose, by Shabana, this young Afghan artist. And the light, according to Tamanna, should not only illuminate the service, but should go deep in the roots of the society. Thank you for listening. And in conclusion, I should say that art can be utilized as a means for peace. As Mr. Wahidullah, Dr. Wahidullah, my friend, was telling in his interview, how we can use art to bring the cultures together and how to promote peace and how to bring international and national understanding among all of us as human beings. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just want to take 1 second and say that we have a lovely little reception. Mrs. Naweed and their daughter and loved ones have been very generous to bring us a lovely number of Afghan snacks and goodies. There's also 2 copies of his books in the back. However, there are not enough copies. We would make a list of those people who are interested and give it to Mr. Naweed, and Mr. Naweed would then deal with you directly and either mail you a copy. So there are a few books and what have you there, but before we get to the reception and the book signing, I ask that come forth and ask questions. We have 5 minutes for questions. If there's anything you would like to ask, Dr. Naweed will be happy to answer.
Yes, sir.
The family.
Oh. You were asking, okay, please.
What originally inspired you to pursue a degree in art?
Well, that's very good. You know, I was going to study to be a diplomat, and then I came to America to do that, but I changed art because I loved art from very, very beginning. My father was not happy with that, but I did it anyway, and I'm glad I did it. Yes, sir. Yes.
You see the long history, the richness of many generations, many cultures, many societies in Afghanistan. How can we translate that into the future through best practices we're involved with for the environment and economic development, but incorporate the vastness of the culture that we have?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Unfortunately, during the 3 decades of war, many of the young generation forgot about what happened, and they are living in absence of a history, knowledge of history. And knowing history is very important for people. If a nation doesn't know its history, it's like a person who don't have lost the memory. So that's why they can be used by anyone. And my proposal in Kabul 2 times was that we should have teams of the young Afghan young Afghans in each province to become the safeguards of the artifacts that exist there. And they are the ones who have the drive. They are the ones who are great artists, better than me 10 times. And amazing talents out there. And they love their country, but they have to learn more. But we have to provide the opportunity for them. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to ask, you talked a lot about the Greek period in Afghanistan, how it influenced the art, but in the slide, particularly for Bezad, it looked like there's a lot of Chinese influence.
Exactly, because of the trade. Oh, that's a very good question. I was skipping, some periods because we had to get back, to the lights. The Silk Road. You heard the Silk Road, the trade route, which started from Eastern Turkestan, went to Mongolia, came to Afghanistan, traversed Afghanistan, parts of Persia, went to Anatolia. And as an effect of trade, so much of Chinese art influenced our schools of art. Thank you.
One more question? Okay, I again want to thank the Afghan community who came out of their way, the Afghan embassy for their support. It's truly an honor to have Dr. Naweed, someone of his stature here. And this place is open to all you Afghan Americans. Please come and use us. We have a lovely collection of Dari Persian and Pashto language material housed here. We would be more than happy to see you visit us more often. Thank you.
And you're very kind. I don't have a PhD. You call me doctor.
You are a doctor in my eyes.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.